Hey there, welcome back to Work-Life Harmony. Today's episode is on a topic that I talk about often inside of my program and with my students. And I was just recently rereading for either the fifth or sixth time the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's an amazing book. We're actually running this as a book club inside my Planapalooza community this quarter. And one of the quotes in that book stood out to me, which is exactly what I talk about when it comes to planning and managing our time. And so I thought it would be a great thing to pull out and really take a deep dive on here today in the podcast. So the quote from the book Atomic Habits, again written by James Clear, is this: "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems." Now, where does this fit into all things work-life harmony, time management, planning, etc.? Well, one of the points that I bring up time and time again is that having control of your calendar, being really good at planning and managing your time, requires systems, ongoing, repeatable systems. And there are a bunch of them that I teach inside of the top program, different systems for when different things happen in our lives. So let's take a minute here and first just think about, cover what do I mean when I talk about a system? When I'm talking about a system, I am simply referring to a series of steps that you take, or even a specific step or activity that you take that you've done so many times that it starts to kind of become muscle memory, so that when situation A happens, you know exactly what your system is to respond to it. Now, we have tons of systems in our lives, so many that are probably happening on autopilot that you may not even remember it. But maybe they didn't start that way, right? So, in our household right now, we're really working on helping our daughter get responsible for putting dishes away, all of that. The system we are trying to create is, as soon as you are done with a utensil or a dish or whatever, you go and put it into the dishwasher. That's an example of a very simple system. Now, here is the difference between a system and a one time process. Now, if she just one time went in and put the dish away but never did it again, that would be a one time process, right? And here is where I see the planning and productivity community failing so many people today. What so many of them are teaching is a one time process to get you back in control of your life again. What they're failing to teach are the repeatable systems that keep you from getting overwhelmed. Now, I have shared in previous episodes my 3-step process for whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I always tell everyone this is not a system. This is not where you want to live. This is a one time process, and then you need to implement systems to keep you out of overwhelm. So let's break this down with an example. And then I want to really lean into understanding what some of these systems and why we need them to help us plan and manage our time. So, many of you are familiar with the Marie Kondo style of organizing, right? Or even if you watch Home Edit on HGTV, you could right now pull up Pinterest, Google, whatever, and say, all right, I walked into my closet. It's a complete disarray. I want to have it be one of those closets that looks really, gorgeous. What is the process for doing this? And you could probably find some material that will tell you, okay, here's the process. Take everything out of your closet. Then as it's all out of your closet, take thoughtful time to really go through and quote, edit it, meaning what do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? And then decide how you want it organized when it goes back in. Maybe you want it organized by season or by color, or maybe, by both, that kind of a thing. And so then you go and put all your stuff back in your closet. It's all hanging the right way. You might even have matching hangers. It might be color organized, right? And that is a process for you to take your closet from chaos into a beautiful looking closet where now everything in there is stuff that you love and it's all put away nicely. Now, what that is not is an ongoing system. Okay. So here's what happens with that example: weeks, months go by, and All of a sudden, one of these days, maybe it's, 6, 9 months later, you go to get dressed in the morning, you open up your closet door, and it is absolute chaos again. That's because what you did not have was a repeatable ongoing system of how you take clothes out, like when you're actually getting dressed in the morning. Do you have a system for where those hangers go, etc.? And then after you've done laundry and you're putting clothes back in your closet, do you have a system for how everything goes back in to keep it looking nice and organized? The same is true with a pantry, right? Maybe you reorganize your pantry, but if you don't have a system for keeping it that way, it gets out of control. Another example is with email, right? So maybe one day you're like, that's it. I'm getting caught up on my email. It's an absolute mess. It's chaos. I've got 10,000 unread messages. And you spend the entirety of a day or even a week going through, deleting, cleaning it up, creating your folders, and doing all of that. But if you are lacking the repeatable systems that you do every day to stay on top of your email, you're going to end up right back where you started from again. And 2 years later, your email is going to be a hot mess. So, how does this concept of systems apply to how we control our calendar, how we plan and manage our time? So, let's think about this. Let's say that you have decided today's the day I'm going to get the perfect planner, right? I'm going to lay out the plan for my week. I'm actually going to have the list of all the stuff that I'm going to do. I've got all my appointments in there. Great. I've got I did my one step process of just creating that plan. But then maybe something takes longer than you planned. Maybe you've booked 1 hour to get something done only to discover that you needed 2 hours. And now everything like that domino effect starts to fall, right? Okay, well, that took 2 hours longer, which means now I'm late starting this other thing. And then it starts to snowball. And by the end of the week, you're like, well, I give up. See, planning doesn't work. Or maybe you've laid out the perfect plan, the one time process there, and an emergency pops up. Maybe it's Wednesday afternoon, and what you had planned on doing, now you get a phone call and you have a sick child that you need to go pick up from school, and you don't have the system in place to know what to do when that happens, right? Or you've laid out your perfect plan for the week and you sit down to work on Monday morning only to see that now your boss or tasks from work or whatever, all these new things are coming at you that have to get done this week. And you're like, well, hang on, I already created my plan for the week. I don't have the system in place to know what to do as those new pop-up things come at me. So this is usually when I meet people and they say, I tried planning, it doesn't work. It's not that the act of the planning didn't work. They just didn't have the systems to handle all of the realities of life to know what we do to adjust with our plans to accommodate our plans as those happen. So when we go back to that quote, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I could even change that up a little and say, you don't rise to the level of your plan, you fall to the level of your daily systems as life happens. Now, I will see this time and time again where women who are in my top program, they're on board, they are learning all of the different planning systems from, planning for uncertainty to how to plan it, how we adjust when an emergency comes up to actually the process itself for doing the weekly planning, for maintaining the ongoing system for prioritization, for organizing information, all of the little mini microsystems that we teach in there. And then sometimes life will happen. Maybe someone goes on a vacation for 2 weeks or something, or summer happens and they kind of step away from everything. And as the saying goes, we fall off the wagon, right? We stop doing all of those ongoing systems that we've put in place. And then what will happen is I'll get an email from someone that's like, oh my gosh, I realized things are starting to feel chaotic again. I've come back into the systems and everything is starting to work better. So there is, again, if you feel like you are constantly reinventing the wheel or doing that initial organization over and over and over again, that's a sign for you that you don't have the system in place to keep things going as they should. Now, I think it's important to understand when we're talking about those systems for how we plan and manage our time, the results are not going to change instantly overnight, right? Anytime we're learning, meaning you're not going to have one day and then suddenly you're no longer overwhelmed. Everything is smooth sailing. Life doesn't throw you emergencies, all of that. It's the same as like, think about if you were to start a new exercise routine. I can remember many, many years ago, gosh, about 25, almost 30 years ago, like I'd never been a runner or anything. And I decided I wanted to do a race. And I mean, I couldn't run 1 mile. Walking a mile was a bit of a challenge, but I created a system and I followed, someone else's system for how to kind of start running, right? Now, I followed the system very well. After 1 week of following the system, was I able to go out and run a 3 mile race? Of course not. It took months of working on that system. So the results were not instant and overnight. But then 6 months later, I was able to go out and complete my first 5K. And in that moment, it was me rising to the system, the work that I had gone through, those repeatable processes for 6 months got me to that end result. Now, here's the beauty of creating systems that you use regularly. And these are systems I'm talking about with planning and managing our time. The more you use them over time, they will start to shift into habits. And when I talk about the term habits, I'm meaning things that truly start to happen on muscle memory. I have been using my planning processes for so long that I don't need to go look up what the steps are anymore. I can't not do it that way because it has now become a habit. And that, friends, that's where the magic is. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about today, how do you um, handle changes in what you had, planned on doing for the day or the week? How do you respond? What do you actually do when five new things fall on your plate, or when something takes longer than it should, or when you wake up and realize, oh my goodness, I'd completely forgotten about X? And if your answer is like, I don't know, I just kind of like go into fire drill mode and handle it, that is a sign that you are 100% missing the systems that you so deserve to have to help you stay in control of your calendar. Now, if you are interested in kind of hearing more about what this looks like, I have a great free training available to you. It's how to plan, manage, and organize your time, even with a crazy and unpredictable calendar. You can go check it out by just heading over to theworklifeharmony.com. Make sure you put theworklifeharmony.com, or feel free to come find me on Instagram at Megan Sumrell. Just shoot me a DM with the word training, and then we'll make sure that we get that link over to you as well. But I am telling you, again, back to that quote, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And this is so true in every aspect of our life. So I look forward to hearing from all of you what systems you're excited about putting into place. And I will see you back here next week.